How do you think this is all going to play out? Turkey is already a very divided society. If Erdogan goes on to retain the presidency and carry the parliament, will this increase polarisation in the country?
I think undoubtedly it will increase an already deep divide in Turkish society. This is an election that is clearly contested. The CHP has said that the Supreme Election Board has not ruled and that President Erdogan should not have declared victory, and they expect that the election will go into a second round. It's very hard to imagine that the Supreme Election Board, all of whom are appointees of Erdogan, are going to rule against him. So should, in fact, he be declared president and the Justice and Development Party, along with its ally, the Nationalist Movement Party, have effective control over the Grand National Assembly, you'll see a deepening of these divides in Turkey. You'll see a deepening of authoritarianism in Turkey. I think the possibility of violence upon an announcement from the Supreme Election Board is entirely possible.
And if Erdogan and his AK party are declared the winners of both of these elections, we'll see really more of the same in terms of actual leadership in the country. But we're looking, of course, at a very changed political landscape following last year's constitutional referendum.
That's exactly right. Turkey has now moved from a hybrid presidential parliamentary system to something that Turks are calling the executive presidency. And it's extremely important for Erdogan to have an effective majority in the Grand National Assembly, because if he and the AKP together have that majority, he will have unprecedented powers in Turkish politics. The referendum of last April 2017, have established a presidency unlike the presidency in the previous almost 100 years of the Turkish Republic.
And Stephen, how do you think the increase in powers for the presidency will affect ordinary people, and particularly those who are already subject to Erdogan's crackdown on the opposition and the media?
Well, in many ways, Erdogan has empowered the presidency before the executive presidency comes into being with this election. But of course, he will have the ability to wield powers with no checks and no balances as long as the AKP holds a majority in the parliament. This has a profound effect on average Turks, on what they say, on what they do on social media. There has been a wide-ranging, thoroughgoing crackdown in Turkey that sees no sign of abating. And one can imagine, despite the fact that President Erdogan said today that he would continue his fight for individual political rights, as hypocritical as that may be, one can imagine that the situation for average Turks will grow more dire.
And if Erdogan does emerge from these elections with increased powers, if he's declared the winner, does the opposition have any effective means of opposing the result, of doing anything about those constitutional reforms that are set to be introduced?
It's a terrific question. And in fact, once the Supreme Election Board certifies an election, the opposition will have no recourse in the courts, no recourse in Europe whatsoever. Once he's declared the victory officially, that's it. The election is over.
But the pro-Kurdish party, the HDP, they look to be heading to Parliament. They've crossed the 10% threshold. Will this not have some kind of stay on Erdogan's ambitions?
Well, it does in theory, because with the HDP in Parliament, it denies the Justice and Development Party an outright majority. But keep in mind that the Justice and Development Party has campaigned and is in an electoral alliance with the Nationalist Movement Party, which has gotten about 12% of the vote. Take the AK's result with the Nationalist Movement Party's result, and together they have an effective majority in the parliament.
OK, thank you so much for joining us, Stephen Cook from the Council on Foreign Relations.